Kesley Hayford. J.E. Kesley Hayford. A Pan-African nationalist. Hallelujah. How many of us have heard this name before? Kesley Hayford. It's a big family. The Kesley Hayford family. Today we're talking about Joseph Ephraim Kesley Hayford. My brother, my sister, he was knighted by the Queen of England and given an MBE, Order of the British Empire. The most excellent order of the British Empire. My brother, my sister, this is the man we're talking about today. In fact, at a point, as a Pan-Africanist, he decided to drop all these British names. The Joseph, the Ephraim, the Kesley, the Hayford, and go by the name Ekra Agyeman. Ekra Agyeman. Ekra is spelled E-K-R-A for Ekra Agyeman. A-G-Y-E-M-A-N. He was a lawyer, an educator, and a politician who supported Pan-African nationalism. My brother, my sister, he was also an author. In the interim, this is the African History Club. Now, today, several years ago, African people put themselves on the map of the world. And this is what is referred to as today in African history. Today, in 1942, Muhammad Ali, who formerly was called Cassius Marcellus Clay Jr., was born. It's the birthday of Muhammad Ali. Oh, God. And today, in 1975, Bob Marley and the Wailers began a 4-day UK tour to promote the Natty Dread album. Today, in 1975, 6 years later, Bob Marley became overly famous and died from melanoma cancer. Hey. Now the album Natty Dread was released on the Island Records label. Today in 1976, Blakk Rasta was only 2 years. Mamiya was not born. The opening of the Summer Olympics in Montreal was marred by 25 African teams boycotting the games because of New Zealand's participation. Contrary to rulings by other international sports organizations, the IOC had declined to exclude New Zealand because of their participation in South African sporting events during the apartheid. And because of that, 25 nations were dropped. Today in 1998, the 7.0 megawatt Papua New Guinea earthquake triggered a tsunami that destroyed 10 villages in Papua New Guinea, killing up to 2,700 people and leaving several people injured. Today in 2003, after the assassination of President Joseph Kabila in 2001, which led to a civil war, Congo's new power-sharing government was instituted today in 2003. But the fighting and killing still continued. Finally, today in 2014, on July 17, 2014, Eric Garner, a 43-year-old African-American man, was killed in the New York City borough of Staten Island by Daniel Panteliu, a New York City Police Department NYPD officer, after the latter put him in a prohibited chokehold while arresting him. We remember Eric Garner, don't we? My brother, my sister, this is the African History Club. Now today we're talking about Joseph Ephraim Kesley Hayford, also known as Ekra Agyeman. He was born on the 29th of September, the month of my birth, in 1866, exactly 100 years later, Kwame Nkrumah was overthrown as president of the Republic in 1966. And he was born in Cape Coast, in the British Gold Coast colony, now called Ghana. My brother, my sister, he came from the Anona clan of the Fanti. He was from a clan that could be known as the Omanhines. So he was a descendant of a dynasty of Omanhines and Ochames. My brother, my sister, he was a part of the Fanti elite. His father was a man called Joseph de Graft Hayford. And his brother was the one we talked about yesterday. My brother, my sister, Ernest James Hayford. My brother, my sister, who became the second medical doctor in the Gold Coast. Indigene. My brother, my sister, they came from the elite, the Cape Coast elite. One out brofo, they echo. He was educated and ordained as a minister in the Methodist Church. And he was a prominent figure in Ghanaian politics. Of course, at the time, Gold Coast politics. And it went all the way. He never lived to see Ghana. My brother, my sister, watch this. Hey. Now, as a minister of the Methodist Church, he was also interested in the politics of the Gold Coast. His mother was called Mary de Graft Hayford, and she was from the Brew family, descended from the 18th century Irish trader Richard Brew. And of course, his concubine, Brew, settled in the area in 1745. So they were half Irish, half Fanti, into a Irish Fanti or Cabrofo. One brofo a dough or Cabrofo with tiltes. My brother, my sister, the young man became an ordained Methodist minister of God. But this was how it all started. He attended the Wesley Boys High School, now known as Infantipim, in Cape Coast. From there, like it was done in those days, he went to Fura Bay College in Freetown in Sierra Leone, the Lion Mountain. While in Freetown, our hero for today, J.E. Kesley Hayford, became an avid follower of Edward Wilmot Blyden. Who was Edward Wilmot Blyden? He was an Americo-Liberian educator. He was a writer and a diplomat. On Monday, we will be talking about this person. Note it. Edward Wilmot Blyden. In fact, he was also a politician. Black. In fact, and he was very active in West African politics. He was born in the Danish West Indies, and he joined the wave of black immigrants from the Americas who migrated to Liberia. In fact, he was a teacher in Liberia and beyond, so respected for his wisdom. Edmund Wilmot Blyden. He taught our hero for today, J.E. Kesley Hayford. Jesus have mercy. So he took to the footsteps of his mentor, Wilmot. My brother, my sister, Wilmot himself was the foremost Pan-African figure at the time. Everybody looked up to him. And he edited a newspaper called The Negro. The first explicitly Pan-African journal in the whole of West Africa. It was called The Negro. It was this man called Edward Wilmot Blyden, who edited it. And this was the man who mentored our hero for today. And when he finished his education in Fura Bay in Sierra Leone, he returned to Ghana and became a high school teacher. He eventually was promoted to principal at Accra Wesleyan Boys High School. He was dismissed from his position at the school for his political activism. He was too much of a politician, so they kicked him out. In 1885, my brother, my sister, our hero was only 19 years old. He began working as a journalist for the Western Echo, which was owned by his maternal uncle, James Hutton Brew. Jesus. And by 1888, when he was 22 years old, Kingsley Hayford was the editor, and he renamed the newspaper as the Gold Coast Echo from 1890 to 1896, when our hero, my brother, my sister, had fully taken over the newspaper. He was the co-proprietor of the Gold Coast Chronicle. He also wrote articles for the Wesleyan Methodist Times. He used his pen to change the landscape of politics of this country and beyond. It was a newspaper that was read all over West Africa, the English-speaking countries. Aye. As if that was not enough, he said he wanted to become a lawyer. In 1893, Kingsley Hayford traveled to London to study as a barrister of the Honorable Society of the Inner Temple and at Peterhouse, Cambridge. Jesus. He was called to the bar. Yes. On the 17th of November in 1896, Papa lawyer, that year, he returned with his second wife, Adelaide, to Ghana to private law practice in Cape Coast. He had two wives as a Methodist minister, ordained Methodist minister. He had two beautiful wives. Hallelujah. He said, Bible no, obeto, amamr. He opened private law practices in Cape Coast, in Axim, in Sekune, and also in Accra. You say Sekendi, I say Sekune. We, the indigenous Fantis, we call it Sekune. He also continued to work as a journalist, editing the Gold Coast Leader. And in 1904, when Kwame Nkrumah was not even born, he helped found the Infantipim School. Remember, he went to the same school, but at that time it wasn't called Infantipim or a Wesleyan Boys. Until later in 1904, Osisa Din and Oyen Infantipim. Why Infantipim? Because they were indigenizing everything. This was a Pan-Africanist who was inspired by Wilmot Edward Blyden. Jesus, watch this. In 1910, Kwame Nkrumah was only 1 year old. He succeeded John Mensah Saba as president of the Aborigines Rights Protection Society, the first anti-colonial organization founded in the Gold Coast. This was the very first that forced independence for the Gold Coast. I'm ending the class. He went seriously into activism, fighting for independence of this nation. Kwame Nkrumah was growing up. He published a novel entitled Ethiopia Unbound in 1911. Same year, Accra House of Oak was born. And it was one of the first novels in English by an African. Oh yes, he wrote it. Kingsley Hayford was the progenitor, in fact, of the Kingsley Hayford family of Ghana and Britain. He was the one who started the whole thing. his descendants have served as part of the latter country's black British elite. My brother, my sister, he first married Beatrice Madeline Pinnock. They have a son by name Archie Kesley Hayford, who became a barrister, district magistrate, and the first minister of agriculture and natural resources in the First Republic of Ghana under Kwame Nkrumah. My brother, my sister, today we remember this great black man. He later married Adelaide Smith, a lady of Sierra Leonean Creole origins, and together they practiced law. They had a daughter by name Gladys May Kesley Hayford, who died in 1950. One of these days we'll talk about this woman. She was a teacher and an artist, a poet, and she published some of the most beautiful poems under her pen name Aqua Lalua. She died in 1950. Today we remember this wonderful hero of our land, who used the streak of the pen to change so many things here in Africa and beyond. Papa, 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 I be high. Yeah, Papa, Papa, hey, Papa, wait your journalist, lawyer, educator, politician. Today, our Papa, Mr. Ayabiati. He died at the age of 63 in 1930. We remember you. We remember you. And in the burden of knowledge, I ask you now that you know the story of J.E. Kesley Hayford, what would you do? Bianani ole mini obafe yazuna kagane mezaka yine ye papango bokaya nfifia ye nyanu kai na woba na ewe beden lele jima singa be konne lele jima singa beri. The emperor, the conqueror, the champion, the lion is here.